Hello, I'm 72 on the Bagel, and it's time once again for the Most Hated Character series. Now in this video, I'll be going over the characters of Twisted Metal 4. However, because there's so many of them, I won't be spending a lot of time on each one. So, to kick things off, we're going to talk about the best of the worst, and that would happen to be Orbital. Of all the characters 989 created, I think Orbital was about the only one that they got right on all aspects. I mean, he had a good story, a good ending, and his special weapon was pretty effective. Although, depending on how you use it, it could be kinda cheap. Now, that's good and all. However, there's just one little problem. His character is based off a British secret agent. The problem here is, we already had one, Crimson Fury. We didn't need another. Speaking of Crimson Fury, if you go into the creative car mode, you will notice that there is a red Lamborghini as one of the choices. It makes me wonder if Crimson Fury was being considered for this game. Next up on my list, Rob Zombie, or in the game he's referred to as Mr. Zombie. Now I'll be honest, I like Rob Zombie's music, I think he does pretty good movies, and as far as being a Twisted Metal character goes, he's not bad. The problem I have, though, is the fact that they have a celebrity. That tells me that the creators are running out of good original ideas, so they're just gonna pick up a celebrity. To be honest, if this trend had continued, I'm almost afraid to ask who else they could have gotten. Next up, we have Quatro, the four-armed futuristic alien slash bounty hunter who rides a hoverbike. The big problem with Quatro is, he feels like he's in the wrong game. I mean, I think he'd be better suited for Metroid Prime, rather than Twisted Metal. I mean, he just doesn't fit. Next up, we're going to talk about one of the bosses, Moonbuggy. As far as bosses go, Moonbuggy wasn't too bad. He was a heavy hitter with a special weapon that was pretty effective, although it did have a limited range. The big problem with Moonbuggy is the vehicle. I mean, I look at it and I ask myself, what the hell is that supposed to be? I'm guessing it's supposed to be a space vehicle for space exploration, but could they have not have come up with a more normal design? Like maybe a monster VW bug? Next up, we have yet another boss, Crusher. To be honest, the only problem with Crusher is that he's nothing more than a straight-up clone of Mr. Slam. I mean, we already had Mr. Slam. We don't need two vehicles who do the same damn thing. Now, from this point on, the characters are only gonna get worse. So, please bear with me. So next up, we have the Joneses, who would appear to be an affectionate spoof on the Griswolds, complete with a giant green station wagon. Unfortunately, that's about the only nice things I can say about the Joneses. First off, they're annoying as all hell. They're that family that you just want to try and ignore. Second, they seem to have taken Warthog's special weapon, the Patriot missiles. Now, why they did this, I don't know. I mean, it does make sense to give Patriot missiles to a run-of-the-mill family. I mean, it made sense when they gave Thumper's flamethrower to Firestarter in 3, but here, it doesn't make sense. And of course, their story and ending are also complete and utter crap. And coming up next, we have... is Drag Queen, a fat, disgusting man dressed up like a woman. Drag Queen is clearly one of those characters they created just to be funny. However, the concept is so stupid it's not funny at all. The only bright side to Drag Queen is the car, and has a special weapon that could be called the mini-me version of Thumper. Actually, if they wanted to, they probably could have called Drag Queen Thumper, but thank God they didn't. I think that'd be a disgrace to the character. Incidentally, for those of you who didn't know, Thumper ended up being a boss in this game. Next up, we have Twisted Metal 4's most retarded character. I speak none other than the Trashman. Now, I don't have a problem with having an incredibly stupid person in a video game. Granted, they don't act or sound like the following.
The actor thinks for those dregs. They wish for paint of trash.
Huh. You know, Trashman actually sounds kind of familiar. I swear I've heard that in another video game somewhere before, but I can't think of which one. Look, the Main point here is, that type of stereotype is so overused, it's not funny anymore. It is asinine. And it needs to come to a screeching halt. Next up, we have Maid. Now, when I first saw this vehicle, I was under the impression that Outlaw had been demoted. But it turned out to be another character altogether. Oh, what can I say about Maid? Well, first off, she's pretty damn ugly for a woman, and looks like she could be Drag Queen's twin sister. Secondly, they play on that southern stereotype, but here it just really doesn't work. Mainly due to the fact that they have her talk really slow. Look, if you're going to do a southern stereotype, fine, but for God's sakes, do it right. Next up, we have the only other boss left to talk about, and that would be RC Car, or as I like to call him, the big design fuck-up. When I look at this car, I find myself asking, how long did they spend designing it? It looks like they only spent 5 minutes on it? I mean, when you look at it, it's nothing more than a little Daihatsu van with a giant strapped to the top of it. I mean, when I heard there was going to be an RC car with a giant laser, I was kind of under the impression that it would be a generic car with a little laser gun duct taped to the top of it. Not this shit. By far, RC Car is the most uninspired, uncreative vehicle that they've ever come up with. Now, having said that, let's look at a car that was a little too overly creative. I'm of course now talking about Microblast. Unlike RC Car, Microblast at least had some creativity behind it, being that it was a little wind-up toy car. But this was just beyond absurd and stupid. And then of course, you had the driver, which was a little leprechaun. Now, I have nothing against having magical or mythical creatures in the world of Twisted Metal, but having a leprechaun is like scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel, people. Then of course you have Pizza Boy, who is an obvious spoof on Eminem. Around the time this game was made, Eminem was pretty well known, so I guess it figured it only makes sense to make fun of him. The problem was, even by this time, the idea was really lame. I'd also like to talk about this character's occupation. He is a street racing pizza delivery boy who does rapping. You can't be all three. Speaking of his rapping, that was probably the most annoying aspect of this character. It makes you just want to punch him. In fact, this aspect of Pizza Boy is so annoying that if I were to do a series of animated bloopers about Twisted Metal, I would have him get beaten up for no good reason. Well, other than it's funny. So of course, last but certainly not least, this leaves us with Goggle Eyes, who I deem to be the most hated character of Twisted Metal 4. When I first saw this character, he looked like a zombified fighter pilot from World War I. But lo and behold, he's not. He is an exterminator who wishes to rid the world of all bugs, who wears goggles. I think the reason behind the goggles is that he was supposed to be some kind of reference to the movie Mouse Hunt. Although I can't be 100% sure about that. Point is, the guy looked beyond retarded. I mean, he doesn't look like anything I would expect an exterminator to look like. Jesus. And then of course you have his vehicle, which is a big white van, which has the no bug symbol, and a giant cockroach on the top of it. I mean, was it really necessary to have another white van? I mean, we have Sweet Tooth, we have RC Car. Did we really need a third one? Why not a pickup truck with a camper on the back of it? That would have been more acceptable. Okay, well that should do it for now. Join me next time when we take a look at the current characters of Twisted Metal who are hated.
You're inferior to the entire human race! You're a hazard to humanity! A pox on the gene pool! A flaw in the food chain!